welcome back to another episode of the Games Gone By podcast. It is June 17th at the time of this recording. I'm your host, Adam, and joining me today, as always, the gaming expert and enthusiast, Austin. Here we are. You've made me do yet another episode that is not about a single game.
You know, you can call me the demo enthusiast today, because I think I played 30 of these things. I did a count. I think I played 30 of these Steam demos over the Steam Next Fest.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about today is Steam Next Fest. And luckily for you, I like the sound of my own voice more than I hate doing these, so it all works out. Why don't we just jump right into it? We're going to go through a series of games here. We got about 12, 14 games on the list. We're going to alternate between ones we both played and ones only one of us played to kind of keep that interesting. And we're going to end with the game that we thought was like our game of the event, so to speak. So yeah, Steam Next Fest, if you don't know, basically it's kind of like an online showcase on Steam where people can put out demos of games that are upcoming in the next quarter, the next half year, whatever it might be. And we always enjoy it every year because it's just a cool way to see some of the stuff that's coming that doesn't get a lot of press coverage. Like a lot of times these are much smaller studios. The first one we played was called, the first one we're going to talk about was called Echoes of Elysium. So I saw this one and I was like, dude, this kind of reminds me of Aloft, which we played last year. And it was kind of our like game of the showcase last Steam Next Fest. And it's this, you know, Aloft was this game where it's kind of like this survival crafting game, but you're in the sky and you can fly around and you can put stuff on islands and turn islands into ships. But Echoes of Elysium, it was like actual airships. I was like, dude, this looks like it's gonna be so cool. In my notes here, I put, it simply doesn't work.
It's just, yeah, like, we couldn't get co-op to work at all. Mm-hmm. The game felt bad, like gliding, like you have a glider or some sort of like jetpack or something, and it just felt awful to me.
It doesn't feel anything like the Aloft glider. Yeah, it felt pretty bad.
No. Like it was like you couldn't really. It was like a vertical hover more than anything. It was just it did not feel good. I literally turned it off like 5 minutes into playing it and was like, yeah, this is just, nothing about this makes me want to play it.
So, you know, I was like, okay, maybe I'll get used to the gliding, whatever. Co-op doesn't work. I'll try it for a few minutes by myself. But you start on like a block of wood and there's resources in the air. And the idea is you'll collect them out of the air and then start expanding your ship and then you can move your ship. But half the resources literally wouldn't get picked up. Like I'd fly through them and I wouldn't get it. So I'm trying to build the fucking engine to the airship to just fly it for I just want to fly it for 10 seconds, dude. I just want to see how it feels. I literally couldn't get to that point. It goes without saying that this is just a demo. They have plenty of time to fix all these things. But it blows my mind that like, this is your chance. This is your chance in front of millions of Steam players to put a demo out there that might make someone want to play your game. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. To me, that's crazy. This is a huge bust. I wish them all the best, but major disappointment.
Yeah, it's a 1 out of 5 for me, man. I played this and I was like, it only doesn't get a 0 because I guess technically I could start it. So, you know, that's something. But yeah, it was just really disappointing. And I think it goes to show that like not all of these demos are winners, especially if you're not looking at like a curated list that's like, these are the best Next Fest demos. Like, there are thousands of demos in this thing. So it's like, not everyone's going to be a winner. And like you said, maybe they'll fix it, but yeah, questionable to start.
Moving on, there's a game called Mina the Hollower. Now, you played this one, Austin, so give me the quick elevator pitch. What is this game about?
Yeah, do you know anything about this game?
Not one bit.
Okay, so this is the new project from Yacht Club Games, famously of Shovel Knight fame.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, so this is the next project from the Shovel Knight guys. They finally put Shovel Knight to bed, and they've started this Mina the Hollower game, which is, you know how like Shovel Knight took inspiration from like DuckTales and like the old NES era platformers, and kind of had that like Castlevania Mega Man style. This is taking kind of a more like top-down Zelda approach of like the Game Boy era, like the Game Boy Color era, kind of like the Oracle of Seasons and Ages games. Kind of that like top-down, half platformer, half like action game, because there's like a jump mechanic, so you're like jumping over gaps and stuff, and you have weapons, so you can kind of, they're enemies to fight. It feels a lot like those old Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, like Link's Awakening type games. This was a lot of fun. I really love this. I mean, the team over there at Yacht Club, they kind of have a grasp on these retro 2D like throwback games. I mean, Shovel Knight was a huge success, and I think this one takes a lot of those same sensibilities that they popularized with Shovel Knight, like the Dark Souls Lost thing that Shovel Knight did, where you like lost your items, you had to go back to the level to get it. Mina the Hollower does the same thing, right? Like if you die, you have to battle back through to pick up. I think it's bones is the collectible currency. So if you die, you go and you pick up your bones. You use that to upgrade your attack, your defense, you have like a secondary weapon you can upgrade with that. Like there's different things that you upgrade with the bones. And the battles were a lot of fun. The combat was like really tight. The platforming was fun. There was some like light puzzle elements that were engaging. Like I really liked this. It felt like Yacht Club took all their experience with Shovel Knight and said, let's do that with like a different type of 2D genre, and I'm all in on it. It looks really good. It comes out this year, October 31st, I think, like on Halloween. So it's kind of got that like spooky vibe to it. And I think this is going to be another huge winner for Yacht Club.
No, I haven't played a ton of Shovel Knight. In my head, for some reason, I was thinking it was roguey. Is it not really roguelike? It's more of like Dark Souls, so you're trying to progress through a set world, but with a stiff death penalty?
Yeah, it's definitely not roguey at all. It's like there's design levels, and once you clear the levels, like you clear it. There's not this idea of like you retain some stuff and come back and do the run again. Like you can finish the whole game in one run. It's it's very much like old NES platformer style. The kind of hook was when you died, you would lose your, I forget what it was, like coins or whatever in Shovel Knight, right? And you would lose them, and that's what you would use to upgrade like your weapons and purchase like new secondary weapons and stuff like that. And you would have to progress back through the level to collect that stuff without dying again in that kind of Souls fashion.
Okay, great. So sounds like this Yacht Club company has great stuff coming in the future here, carrying on the tradition of their successful franchise.
I cannot believe you haven't played Shovel Knight. Go play Shovel Knight.
I think I have briefly. But I also think like, what was it, a retro platformer? Yeah, that's like two things I don't care about.
It's so good though.
I bet it is, and maybe one day we'll cover it. We'll move on now to Neon Inferno, which I would describe as kind of a Contra style game with some unique mechanics here and there. I really enjoyed this one. It was a little visually chaotic, but the way you were able to like shoot background enemies, and we had to do this motorcycle sequence where one of us drove and one of us shoot. I really liked that aspect. It was definitely a little hard to keep track of everything at times, and the demo was, in my mind, way too short. But this was pretty cool, and I think I'll be keeping my eye on this one. How'd you feel about this?
Yeah, no, this one, my note for this one is literally, this game is cool as shit. Because it just has this like neon punk aesthetic kind of going on. I thought as soon as I realized that you could shoot into the background, I was like, all right, this game is cool. Like this game is doing cool stuff. And I thought it felt tight. Like the gun controls felt tight. Platforming, not really a ton of platforming, but like, jumping between levels and like dodging enemy fire. And there's like a parry mechanic that I think worked really well, because you could parry and then like hold it, and it would bring you in like a bullet time mode where you could then aim your parry at something else, which was really cool. So like little things like that to kind of enhance that old school Contra style gameplay, I thought was really cool. I will almost definitely pick this one up. And it honestly was one of the easier ones for us to play together, even though it was still difficult, because every single game that we tried to play together for this thing was a pain in the ass. But this one worked out relatively quickly, I think.
Well, so many of them were Steam Remote Play, and that was always like a little dicey to get work, but we did get it eventually. Yeah, I think this one's like a little more forgiving than the old school Contra games, because you have a life meter instead of just instant death with like 3 lives, right? And you have the parry mechanic, but it was still pretty difficult. I mean, we failed that first boss like a couple times before we got it, I think. And, I definitely enjoyed it though, and I'm with you. I'll be picking this one up.
I saw here that you played a game called Beyond the Map. I know literally nothing about this, maybe even less than you know about Mina the Hollower. So please give me the overview on this one.
No, you'll know more because you've played V Rising, and that's
I have played that.
The way I'm going to describe this game is really like what I always hate what developers do, where it's like, if you can't tell me what your game is without just using 3 other games, and I don't feel like you know what your game is. But I'm not a developer, so I'm going to describe it by using 3 other games.
Perfect.
It's basically V Rising, Valheim, and Diablo, like all smushed together, right?
Okay.
It's, you're not like vampires running from the sun. You're very much like kind of a sort of medieval style thing, and there's magic and there's swords. But there's that same kind of base building where it's it's an isometric view, but you'll gather materials and you build your little base and your crafting benches and whatnot, and then you'll find like spell books on enemies that you kill, just like loot, which give you different spells, and you can only equip so many at a time. And there's mana, so it's a lot of very familiar things, right? Like I felt the game was very competent and intuitive because it took so many things from stuff I was used to and familiar with, and they all worked together really well. I mean, the controls worked well, the building works well. I think the only thing that just makes me not super excited about it is like I have played all those games, and
Right.
and it does just kind of feel like a collection of those games. So there wasn't anything super unique about it, at least in the first half hour that I played it. But it was good. I think if you're not like just maybe totally burnt out on those kinds of things, this one will be pretty interesting because it has decent combat. It has good base building. It's just a good mix of genres and games you've probably played before. But there wasn't much about it to really make it like its own unique thing. So we'll have to see if it can kind of like stand out in a genre that is quite crowded over the last few years, to say the least.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that like with so many of these demos, you see that here's a version of 6 other more popular games, and it's like, how do you stand out in that crowd? And sounds like maybe this one will struggle to do that, but I will go take a look at it now because that does sound interesting. I played most of those games and like those games as well. So
one of the next ones that we played is called Jump Ship. I want to say I had this one wish listed for a while, but it actually turns out I had Void Ship wish listed. But they look like a very similar style of game. And basically, what it is you and up to 4 players. It's a co-op game. It's like a first-person shooter where you're also controlling a ship, like collectively. So someone has to get in the gun turret, someone has to fly it, etc. And it's kind of a roguelike. So you'll like hyperspace from sector to sector and try to do activities there, whether it's like killing enemies on the ground or dog fights with AI. So you collect their loot, collect their scrap, upgrade your ship, move on to the next thing. We only really played like 3 or 4 little systems, so I don't know how in depth like the progression and stuff gets, but I will say it felt really good. You got these little jetpacks when you're out of the ship in person that let you move fairly quickly. The physics all feel good. The way you collect scrap, you have to get it like you'll blow up a ship and you go through the blue cloud and then it collects in this little canister, and someone has to run outside and grab the canister from the collector and like bring it into your fuel thing. And then the way your ship is equipped, it's like almost like a backpack system in like a Diablo or whatnot, where things take up so much space and you have to rearrange them to get the most efficient layout. And I really enjoyed all the mechanics. Like I said, we didn't get to play it too long, but it feels really interesting. And unless this game is one of these things that comes out and thinks it can be $70, I do feel like I will pick up this eventually if I can get people to play it with me. It was just a pretty good time.
yeah, I definitely thought this one surprised me a lot, because when I first heard about Jump Ship, I wasn't expecting the like budget that it had. Like, it looks very AAA as far as like the visuals and the mechanics involved and like the sound design, and everything feels very like high budget. And for some reason, every time I heard about Jump Ship, I assumed it was kind of like a lower budget thing, maybe more something like the Hunters Inc. demo or something that we played, which is not a good example because we're not talking about that game here. But just something a little like smaller budget, maybe even something like a Loft or something that like just visually wasn't as impressive as going into Jump Ship. Like, that game looked very, very detailed. It had a really cool like sci-fi aesthetic, a little generic, but like really polished, and all the mechanics felt really polished. And I was really surprised by the depth and like the amount of things that were in it, because I just always kind of imagined it as something lower budget. So that was really cool to see, and I think there's a lot of potential here. It reminded me a lot of like Sea of Thieves, and I fell off of that game really quick, but it's maybe because I never had people to play with, and that one is kind of more of the lower budget like aesthetic. And this one definitely has a different aesthetic. I guess what I don't know, and what's hard to know from the small amount of the demo that we played, is like, what is the grind to this game? Like, what is the in game? What is your objective? Are you just like going system to system and that's it? Like, is there some sense of progression? Is there a story?
We were completing a quest for someone back at the hub. We never turned it in. That's how little we played.
Okay. That's
so already more direction than Sea of Thieves.
Yes, as I was about to say, that was always one of my things with Sea of Thieves that struggled to keep me invested. Is like I never felt like adding direction. It was like, here, just go pilot a ship and like explore the world. And it's like, okay, but what's my hook? So it's good to know that there's like quests and things.
Sea of Thieves managed to make a game about pirates that was boring as hell. One of the most boring things I've ever played, actually. Remember we played that like fucking Pirates of the Caribbean DLC or whatever, and after the first fight we were just like, what is this? Like, what is this garbage?
Yeah. I want to like Sea of Thieves so bad, and I know people love that game. Like, there are people who like live and die by Sea of Thieves. Like, oh, Sea of Thieves is the best thing ever. But yeah, I just could never get hooked in because I couldn't find the game's hooks. Like, I couldn't figure out what it wanted me to keep doing. So it looks like if Jump Ship can do that, if it can give me quests and some sense of progression that keeps me like going back to it, it felt really good to play. And if it can hook me in where like Sea of Thieves never did, I'm in for sure.
I'll say this about Jump Ship. If you've looked at Star Citizen and you were like, I would like to engage in a game like that isn't a 15-year Ponzi scheme, that doesn't sell ships for thousands of dollars, and that has a point to it other than like go into a sandbox and get obliterated by people who have paid thousands of dollars for a ship, then maybe Jump Ship is the game for you. Because it has like that same kind of thing where you're in the first person view, but you collectively drive these ships around and it's all in real time. And I think it kind of scratches that itch without being this just like sandbox free, like pay to win nonsense that Star Citizen is.
Right. Nightmare that is Star Citizen. Yeah. So a game that I played that I know you were interested in playing but didn't get a chance to was Dispatch. This one was announced a few like a year ago or two at either the Summer Games Fest or Game Awards or something like that. And the thing that immediately caught my eye with it was its voice cast, like Aaron Paul, Jeffrey Wright, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham. The list goes on and on. I mean, a really good voice cast. I mean, even like bringing in influencers from the like YouTube space, like Jacksepticeye and Alana Pierce, like a lot of people in this voice cast. And the premise of it is kind of a Telltale style, interactive, like choice-based game where you are a dispatcher for superheroes. So you are yourself a retired superhero. Your character is played by Aaron Paul, like the character that you're playing. And he has lost his like mechanical suit that made him a superhero. And now he works at a dispatch company that dispatches other superheroes to solve problems for people who need help, right? And your team that you're dispatching for, right? Like the team that you're dispatching are all ex-criminals. They're part of the Phoenix program, so they're like rehabilitating superheroes essentially. And this is a really cool concept to me just to begin with, right? Because you're not actually playing the superhero, you're the dispatcher who is sending out the superheroes. And the way this manifests in gameplay is like you're looking at an overview of your sector of the city. It's like a top-down view of your sector of the city. And things will pop up at different spots saying like, help, my cat's stuck in a tree. And you have to select which hero is going to go solve that problem for that person. And you kind of want to match it to what their skill set is. Like you can get a readout of all their skills. Like they have 3 charisma or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, I want to maybe send the person who needs to be like super stealthy, send the invisible girl, or send the one with high mobility, or like, oh, I need to put out a fire, send somebody with like a water-based ability or whatever, right? And so that's kind of the hook of this game. That's kind of the mechanics. But I think where it's really going to shine is in a lot of the character interaction and story stuff that's going to happen, where you're going to be choosing how to interact with your individual team.
In the time you played, did it ever feel like there was like a hard choice to make? or was it mostly like, yeah, it's on fire, so I'm going to send water?
Probably the biggest downside of the demo is that it's too short. You really don't get a ton of time to like get a bunch of choices. I only probably sent out heroes like 10 total times. Only like 10 pop-ups popped up before it was like, oh, demo over. So it was hard to tell. There was nothing super difficult that I experienced. I do think there's potential for that. I will say one thing that was really cool is like the fire guy that you have who starts fires, he actually goes rogue at one point and like just leaves the base and starts a fire somewhere in town.
Just for the hell of it?
Yeah, he's a criminal, right? Like, he's a former criminal, and he's part of the rehabilitation program. So he's just like, I'm going to go light a fire because I don't want to be here. And then you have to then respond to said fire. So the interesting thing about balancing it is, like, there is a scenario where you could send out your best hero on another job, and they're working that one job while something else pops up that they would also be suited for. So then you have to find like your second best option or your third best option. So there is kind of a balance there of like making sure you aren't always using like, oh, this one has high stats in everything, let me use them for everything because they can be busy or whatever, right? So there's kind of a balancing act there.
I'm always into games that let me manage situations and manage like not necessarily like a party based thing, but just manage like groups of people and whatnot. So this does sound pretty interesting to me. I'm definitely going to have to check it out.
It's really cool. Again, the only problem is the demo is too short, so it's hard to really get a feel for like what it's going to be in the long term. Yeah. But the very premise is cool enough, and Jeffrey Wright's character is hilarious. So,
remind me who Jeffrey Wright is again.
He plays the doctor in Westworld, the black guy. I can't remember his name, but yes.
Moving on, a game called Mycopunk, Myco Punk. This is Miko. I guess it's Myco.
I think it's Myco.
Yeah, so this is, I think, one of the reviews we read for it was like it's trying to cash in on like a Helldivers like experience, and it's kind of similar. I mean, it's obviously a very different vibe. There's no like Starship Troopers references here.
Right.
It's a first person thing. The art style is was it like cell? It wasn't even really cell shaded, but it was like
it was very unique. Like
it wasn't like a hyper realistic looking thing.
Yeah, not at all. But it's hard to really describe what it does look like. It is very much kind of its own thing. It feels like.
Yeah, and so you fall to a planet, you go to do some objective. The ones we were doing was like you have to fire this giant rail gun, so we had to like protect its batteries and then go flip some switches. And the aliens that are assaulting you are very crazy looking. A lot of them were like some Doc Ock looking things where the arms would break off individually. There's giant floating diamonds with like death lasers, just really weird abstract shapes and whatnot, which was definitely interesting. The guns were really cool. One of the ones I had, it would like shoot a bunch of beams up into the air, and then they would like pause a second and then seek out a target and come like crashing down to the ground. Each character has kind of these different abilities, and one of them is kind of like a movement ability. So like one guy had something like a grapple hook, one kind of had a jetpack. So there's definitely a little more of a vertical element than say Helldivers. But it was a pretty good time. There was part of me that was like, why wouldn't you just play Helldivers? But I do think it's a different enough game to where if you don't like Helldivers, you might like this kind of thing. It's interesting. I'll keep my eye on it. What did you think?
Yeah, that was kind of where I landed too. Is like, yeah, it was fun enough. I think when we first started playing it, I was more into it, and you were like, "Why are we playing this?" And I think you started to come around towards the end of our like. I think we played like 2 games. Yeah. And I think you started to come around towards the end of it, and I actually maybe started to fall a little bit more the other direction of like, yeah, this is fine, but like, why am I not just playing Helldivers? Because it is a little different, but it does feel like it's doing a lot of the same things that Helldivers is doing, just not as well as Helldivers does them. But it was at least interesting enough, and I'm glad we tried it out. I don't know if I would get this one. It would need to get like really strong reviews or like Steam reviews. People would have to be saying like, "Oh, Mycopunk is so fun" for me to like probably invest in this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for it to stand out. I would say I thought its revive mechanic was pretty cool. Your body gets blasted into a couple different
Yeah.
pieces, and your teammates have to like bring the body parts together. And after we played fucking Nightreign, just
As
having an
I was about to say, any unique revival mechanic is refreshing coming off of Nightreign, which just has the worst unique revival mechanic I've ever seen.
say this podcast is not about Nightreign, but we did play that a few days ago, and it was surprising because like you don't like those kind of games, so it wasn't crazy you
No,
didn't like it.
I hate all of them.
I've had some fun with it, so I thought I might have some fun, and I didn't. But our buddy Connor, who has beaten Elden Ring, I think he's beaten some of the other games, he was the one that suggested we refund it after an hour. He was like, "This sucks." So
Yeah, our Nightreign experience was not an enjoyable one for sure.
yeah, here's our random Elden Ring Night Ring review in the middle of this. But moving on,
It's bad.
it's bad. Next, Mage and Monsters 2. So the first Mage and Monsters, I'm a huge fan of. It's one of these auto battlers, and what I really like about it is like you pick a few different like from a few different heroes that have like different starting spells or passives or whatever, and then it's like a series of battles, and like your units start on the left side, the enemies start on the right, and they meet in the middle. And you can use your spells to kind of influence the battle, and then after every round you get gold, and you can use it to upgrade different things. And what I really liked about the first one is there's a lot of choices to be made that you have to kind of balance, because it's like you want to eventually upgrade to the next tier of units, but like there's less of them each time and they're more expensive. So you don't want to do it like too early, because then you won't be able to buy as many, and maybe your army just doesn't have enough like beef to it, right? Like I've definitely been in situations where I level up too quick and I have great ranged units, but then I have nothing to protect them. So I just really always liked that balance as you beat each mission. It's like, when to upgrade what, and then do I buy more spells? Do I buy more units? Do I upgrade my spells, etc.? This one is a little weird. What I do like about it is that now you actually pick a hero unit that goes on to battle with you, instead of you just being kind of like an overlord, and you still have the spells and everything. But this one had less choices about like when to upgrade and different things. Instead, it kind of had a rogue like element thing where every level you get to choose between 3 different random things instead of it being a little more structured. I don't know how I feel about that. And also, I don't know if it's just the demo, but the meta progression is entirely absent, which is another fun thing about the other one. Is like you can level up things permanently, and you can like get more starting gold, etc. This one has none of that at all, which I find very puzzling. And I'm hoping it's just a case of like the demo doesn't have it, because if it doesn't have it at all, then this game's just not really my jam. Because I'm not as big of a fan as like the rogue likes. I'm typically more a fan of the rogue lights. Few exceptions for sure, but to me, this one just doesn't feel like it has much going for it. If it's like I beat it once and then I'm done. So we'll see how this goes. It's just a little disappointing compared to the first one, I think.
That's what I was actually about to ask, is like, coming off of you saying you're a big fan of the first one, does this one seem like a downgrade compared to that? And I know you just played a demo, so it's hard to say for sure, but like in the demo that you played, it sounds like you're disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay itself is pretty similar, and with the addition of the hero unit, that's cool. I like that part of it. I'm just not sure if the stuff going on in between the levels is as interesting to me as the previous game. And then I'm just not sure if it just wasn't in the demo or the progression system's gone, and I guess we'll figure that out. So next we have the wokest game of the event fest. No, I'm totally killing. It's a game called Absolum.
Oh my God.
Absolum. We just saw some Steam review that was like, game is woke. One of the characters is like non-binary. And she's like, oh my, literally didn't even encounter that character. So she's like, I don't even know what you're talking
No,
about.
I think they showed up in like a cutscene, and we couldn't actually unlock them because we didn't play enough of it to unlock them. But game is woke.
This was a co-op, like, I guess, roguelite beat 'em up. So it's very much like a if you've ever played any beat 'em up, Streets of Rage, Turtles in Time, River City Ransom, whatever. It's very similar to that, but then every once in a bit you get a choice between a couple of abilities that change how your characters work. And there's a couple different characters that you can play that all have different combat styles. Although the one time we tried to switch to the other one, the game just broke and wouldn't let us either switch characters or back out of the menu. But this one was pretty fun.
We ended up playing the same character for the run that we did, but I thought it was a really great time. I love the art style. Like, I thought the art was really cool on this one. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I guess it was kind of cell shaded ish, not even really, but it just had like a very animated look. Like it looked very high budget animation type of look, and the I thought the pace of it was really like fast paced. The attacks were quick. Like it didn't feel weighty in the way that it felt kind of like a Devil May Cry style beat 'em up, right? Like fast paced combos, and you had a bunch of different abilities that were all cool to kind of mix together. I really liked this one. I liked the speed of it. I liked the art style and the aesthetic. I mean, it's a beat 'em up, right? There's not too much to say about it.
Right.
But I really did like what we played of it, and it's definitely one I would keep an eye on. I think it was only 2-player, though, right?
Yeah, it was only 2-player.
Yeah, so that's kind of a bummer if you have more than that. Like, a lot of beat 'em ups are, could get up to 4 players, like the Turtles in Time, or, I'm not sure about, I think Streets of Rage was only 2, but it feels like a lot of these can get up to like 4 players. So that's kind of a disappointment, I guess, if you want to play with a bigger group. But I really liked what we played of this one.
And I think, we're talking about with Neon Inferno, it sometimes was a little visually chaotic. This game was very clear. I really appreciated that. Like, for as much as was going on, I never felt like I was losing track of my character or the enemies or projectiles or anything. So cool art style that actually just works well in motion.
Right, which is impressive, because a lot of the times you'll see an art style like that and think, oh god, I'm not going to be able to follow anything that's happening. But that wasn't the case here. It was really easy to follow, and the fights were pretty tough. Like, there was a boss that was pretty difficult, and we almost died on that boss pretty bad. So I appreciated that. Like, the combat felt challenging,
Yeah, was this the one too where you could walk up to something and like grab them by the throat like you could in Streets of Rage?
Yeah, like you would grab by the throat. Like, yeah, it was cool. The next game that I played is one that I've been on the lookout for a while now, and that is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, the 2D like revival. It's by the Blasphemous team, the same team that did Blasphemous.
Okay,
they're doing Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Do you know Blasphemous?
I don't know anything about Blasphemous.
Okay, I said that, and I was waiting for you to be like, but no, it's okay. I haven't even played those. I just know like Blasphemous 2 came out recently, and people were like, Blasphemous 2 is so good.
Is that also like a action platformer 2D?
Yes, very similar style of game, which is why I think people were excited about that team doing like a kind of Ninja Gaiden throwback 2D platformer style game. And this one was great. I mean, I was really hyped for it, and it lived up to my expectations. Like, the platforming feels really tight. Combat feels difficult, but appropriately so. There's this mechanic where you can kind of bounce off of enemies by pressing A whenever you're like jumping and you get close to them. You can press A to like bounce off of them. Kind of like DuckTales style almost, right? Like you use the shovel to bounce off of enemies. Okay. Kind of the same thing. So this can be used for like platforming, or to like just move around the arenas to like dodge projectiles and stuff. You can deflect projectiles back by attacking them. A lot of like classic Ninja Gaiden stuff, but modernize it, and it's hard. It's fast paced. It was a lot of fun. The boss fight that I fought was really difficult. I had to do it like 3 times, but it felt really good to finish it. I was like, yes, this feels good. It feels just like what I would want from like a modern Ninja Gaiden game. I've played a little bit of those on the NES days, and those are like really hard. And this didn't feel quite that difficult, right? Like, it felt manageable. And yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I don't know if you are into the Ninja Gaiden 2D games at all, but this one is definitely one that I'm keeping an eye out on, and will almost definitely get as soon as it comes out.
Despite me just saying I don't like retro platformers, I did actually play a bunch of the original Ninja Gaiden back in the day, because I was at the Boys and Girls Club. We had a computer lab, and one of the teens just put ROMs and emulation on all those computers. And that was one of the games I played a lot. So no, I would actually be pretty interested in checking this out. I don't know anything about Blasphemous, but just the fact that they have a background in doing a similar game that people seem to praise is a good sign.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I would definitely give it a shot whenever it comes out. The demo might even still be out. I'm not sure. But this is definitely one that I would keep an eye out on.
The next one we played was called Heroes of Mount Dragon, another beat 'em up. This one was 4-player. This one reminded me a little bit of like Golden Axe back in the day.
Ooh, yeah, good comparison.
Yeah, but it was interesting because compared to something like Austin was saying how with Absolum it was like very snappy, very quick, very very fast paced. This one's a little slower, like a little more methodical. I have to assume it's a choice because of like we talked about there being visual clarity. When you have a 4-person beat 'em up, like that can get very messy, and I think the way this game works is probably a little clearer in that regard. But you choose 4 different characters. You have a bunch of different attacks out the gate, which I really liked because it was like you have a strong and a strong and a light attack, and you can do combos by mixing those up. You can dash, which does a different combo. You can run, which does a different attack. You can jump in the air and hit down and does a different attack, which is jumping in the air and hitting up or left or right. There's just a bunch of stuff you can do off the bat. My main concern with this one was that I don't know how much there is to like keep you going after a while, because it seemed like the progression system was a lot of passives, and I'm not even sure how it works anyway because the game kept starting us at max level for some reason. So like I really thought the minute to minute stuff was really fun. I'm not sure how like deep it gets, and oh my god, there was this series of like dialogue you had to skip through. I mean, of course you could have read it, I suppose, but it
I mean, who would do that? It's a beat 'em up. Come on.
but there was like a 2-second pause before you could skip any of them, and I mean, I'm talking, dude, there were like 20 lines before each mission. It was driving me crazy. But it's a cool game. Oh, also you can turn into a dragon, which is cool.
I was about to say, the coolest thing about this game is definitely that you build up a meter, and when that meter fills, you can turn into a dragon, and you like kind of hover over the top of the screen and like spit fire down on the enemies, and like you could just do like a special fireball. Like it's just like constantly raining fire down on the enemies, which was really cool. I really like the art style in this one. Like the backgrounds felt very painterly almost. It felt like a storybook kind of. Like I felt like you were like reading a storybook.
The animations were super smooth. Like I was impressed with that.
I did think like some of the enemy design and stuff, I mean they're goblins, but like some of it was kind of like unappealing. I guess it's supposed to be they're goblins. Yeah. But like it just like it just kind of fell flat in that regard to me, and I personally didn't love the weightiness as much. Maybe it's just the characters I had, but I didn't love how long it took to do certain actions, and like stuff felt a little like floaty's not the right word, but it's just like heavy. Like it was kind of clunky for me. But right, I do think we played this with Connor, and having 3 people and running through it and kind of just smashing things and laughing and joking and stuff. Like it was a fun time, and I wouldn't be opposed to playing more of it, depending on like price and what reviews say about like the long game, right? Like what keeps you coming.
The enemies in the demo definitely left a little bit to be desired because it was mostly just like you said, it was mostly just goblins. And then,
like bugs. There was like wasps.
Yeah, and the wasps were so it took me a minute to realize like you could look at their shadow over the ground, and that would really tell you like what depth you're supposed to be at, because the third dimension here is actually like pretty prevalent. You can even walk diagonally, which you can't really do in most of these games. It's more of like you shuffle awkwardly diagonally.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it was hard to tell at what depth the enemies were. I do think it has a lot of potential, and like you said, though, we'll see about the price. I'm a little worried about that because it seems like the tech is a little deeper than most beat 'em ups, and probably was a little more expensive to produce. But ultimately, like people don't buy games based on how hard it was to make the game.
Right.
They buy it based on if they think it's fun, and if people are expecting a normal beat 'em up price. So we'll have to see how this goes. I'll definitely be keeping my eye on it.
Yeah, and this one comes out like really soon. This one comes out like next week. So this is one we'll be keeping an eye on this one very soon.
Yeah. So moving on here to After Ink. This was one that I played. It was sort of advertised as like what happens after Plague Inc. Did you ever play that game?
I did. I loved Plague Inc. I played a lot of that.
This one was, although I think like in this case it's like a zombie virus or something. And I was like, wasn't Plague Inc. like Contagions? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I think couldn't you like decide, or like was there like different modes or something? I don't know.
Maybe so. So, but the idea is it's by, I don't know if it's by the same company, but it's like a similar style. Although this one, instead of being like, what is it? Madagascar always closes its ports or whatever. So instead of being like a world like that, it's kind of a mission based thing. And you start off with like these little territories, and you just have to like expand outwards and balance like building up your defenses and your stuff with exploring new territories, and you only have so many resources and yada yada. I didn't get too far, but if you're kind of into that like zombie apocalypse vibe of like building up from nothing, and you're not actually trying to do all of the crap you'd have to do in a game like State of Decay, but a much more bird's eye view, then I think this game could be pretty interesting. I'll definitely keep an eye on it. I expect it to be a game that costs like $20. If it's any more than that, I might wait for a sale, because it doesn't appear to have a ton there. But it was, what the few minutes I was playing it, I was like, I could see where this could be fun.
Yeah, I really liked Plague Inc. when I played it back in the day. It's been a while since I've played it, but I always enjoyed doing runs of it and just seeing if I could, infect the world or whatever. So, like, I would be down to try this out just on that pedigree alone, because I think I did read that it is the same guy. I think it is, like, the same. I think it said from the mind of the Plague Game or Plague Inc. or whatever, right? So, like, I think it sounds like it's the same guy. And so just on that pedigree alone, I'd be interested in checking it out. I never got around to it in the next fest, but if the demo's still available, maybe I'll check it out soon.
This next game we both played was called Ball X Pit, which I don't really know why exactly.
Yeah.
There are balls, very, very much so.
And it is kind of a pit, I think. So
I guess that's true. You're trapped between these like two walls, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Arkanoid or Brick Breaker, but I put like on steroids, because you have kind of the roguelike element to it, right? Where you're getting these power-ups, and the idea is that like if these things reach toward the bottom of the screen, they'll actually start to attack you. So you really want to kind of get rid of them before that point. And obviously you're leveling up the different things that your balls do, and whether it's like, oh, this does damage over time, or this pierces, or this bounces, straight back to you, all kinds of different things. And if you collect the balls, you get to fire them out again faster. So it's like a lot going on, but still fairly simple and straightforward, and just really addicting. I think we both were just surprised, like how fun each individual like moment in this game was.
Yeah, I knew nothing about this game going into it. So when I first started it, I was like, okay. All I knew was like Breakout, but on steroids. Is kind of what I had heard too. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's check that out and see what that is, right? And it has this very arcadey feel, right? Where it's like you can keep playing it over and over again, and each run is kind of small and self-contained, and they won't last super duper long. I guess unless you're like a god beast, but
right,
like for the most part, the runs will probably end relatively quickly. And what I thought was interesting is that unlike something like Brick Breaker or all those games, right, where you get a power up for a short amount of time, here, like, you're constantly powering up, but the enemies are also constantly powering up, right? So the things you have to destroy are also getting stronger as you're getting stronger. So your upgrades aren't expiring or anything like that, but everything that's coming at you is harder. So it's very roguelite in that way, because, of course it is. Every game's a roguelite, or roguelike of some kind.
Roguelike deck builder, survival crafter.
Right. One combination, or sometimes all three of them for every game. But I really liked this one. The thing that I don't know yet, and it's maybe just because I didn't get to experience enough of it in the demo, is the progression in between runs, where you're like building out a base. So like you're like planting crops and building a house, and like you have these little base builder elements in between.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know if I'm going to be like super invested in that element. Or if it's like, maybe it's not super necessary, but it feels like it will be. And I just don't know if I was like excited about that part of it. But the core gameplay loop, that core like run of Breakout or Arkanoid or Brick Breaker on steroids, that was really fun, and I was really surprised and impressed by that.
The base building stuff was interesting, because it's like you put stuff on a little grid, but then you shoot little villagers out, much like balls, and you're trying to get them to harvest the resources, and you get to do this once in between each level, right? And so that was kind of cool. I really thought this was by the Loop Hero developer, because it just had a similar art style. The base building reminded me of it. Totally unrelated.
Yeah.
But it's definitely got a lot going for it, I think. And it's got like you said, we'll have to see how the base building works. It might not be the most interesting thing. I do think it'll be kind of part of the challenge of like, you still have to bounce the villagers in the right way to as efficiently gather from as many of your little squares as possible. So there could be some fun to that. But yeah, I will definitely be keeping my eye on this one.
Yeah, this one's definitely one that I'm added it to the wish list immediately. Like the aesthetic is cool. It's dark, it's spooky, but it's like also kind of lighthearted. Like after I think it's like every time you get the level up and get your like ability, it's like whoa.
Yeah.
And like it's just like this kind of just fun, like lighthearted tone that I liked about it, while also having this overall like darker atmosphere. So yeah, really, really cool game. Probably my favorite if it weren't for our last game, and that is Wildgate. Adam, hit me with the overview of Wildgate.
Our game of the event, as I'm calling it. This one, I don't know about you, but I had definitely not heard of it before the event.
Not at all.
The Steam Fest. So I mentioned that I was following Void Ship and Jump Ship for a little while. And then I was like, oh, this game looks similar. But then I saw that it's mostly PvP based. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to be into that. So it turns out I was wrong. It is so much fun.
I am definitely into that.
It is so much fun. So really the way it works is like, you join a team of 4. And I think there's 6 teams of 4 that get spawned into this part of the galaxy. And the idea is that eventually this warp gate is going to open. Or Wildgate, excuse me, the Wildgate is going to open, and you have to find this artifact and bring it to the gate. And in the meantime, what you're really trying to do is 2 things. You're trying to clear all these little bases so that you can get more loot for your ship, and then also destroy other players, right? So you'll spawn, you can get in these little probes to go explore around you. Someone else can like drive the ship over to the place, and you all jump out of the ship and you go into the first person mode. And there's different characters you can pick and different weapons you can load out with. I think you have to do that all before the match, though, so you're sort of locked into your loadout for the match. But you get stuff that increases your ship's speed, your shields. You get better guns. You get different kinds of guns. You just get all of these things that you're trying to basically build up your ship with, so that when things really go down and the wild gate opens and someone's running the artifact and like 2 ships have already blown up and the other 4 meet in the middle and it's a giant space battle, that you're prepared for it. And it's so damn fun, dude. I was like trying to try to be a little bit of like a commander with it, but I never really knew what I was doing. So I was just like, Connor, go put out the fire. I was like, Austin, take us to the left.
You were doing great. Our first run, we killed. And a lot of it was because of your instructions, right? Just like, ship to the left, turn, raise the shields, lower the shields. Like, I'll hop on the turret. Like, there's so much like fast-paced communication as you're trying to do these different kind of achieving all these different goals, and it's all happening very fast paced. And I talked earlier about Sea of Thieves and how that game had no direction and how Jump Ship was kind of giving more direction. This game solves that problem entirely by making it like round based, right? Like by making it PvP match based. You always have a direction. Your direction is destroy the other ships in the arena and find the artifact. Like, so any of that meandering and guesswork of like, what should I be doing, or what is my objective, all that is cleared up by giving you very clear defined objectives. And I thought that made this so much more appealing like right away. And right, you never know how PvP is gonna go, because you can always get teamed up with like randoms who suck, or you just keep losing and it feels bad. But it really, we played like 4 or 5 games, and between just us playing and us playing with Connor, we probably played 4 or 5 games, and all of them felt fun, unique. Each one had a different, one of them we kind of just won by clearing all the other enemy ships, just destroying them all. But then another one, we lost because there were 4 ships meeting in the middle, all going for the Wild Gate, and we're like trying to chase down one as they're getting there, and then one gets destroyed, and we're like, oh, we can maybe go get the artifact. And like, just all these things happening at once was so chaotic and so fun.
It really was. And there's just so much you can like I said, you can hop on the probes to explore stuff, but that's also, it gives you a better viewpoint of the battle too. So at times I would sometimes just get on the probe and like zoom out and be like, all right, Austin, you need to take us like around to the left or underneath us, so you could just get a better like scope of the battlefield. And of course, there's like oxygen on your ship that can leak if you get holes blown in it. So people have to use their multi-tool to like put out fires and repair the ship. The physics feel so great when shooting the turrets, because you really have to lead but it's not one of those games where everything's going so fast that it's like really hard to hit things. It's like if you take your time and aim properly, it's usually pretty easy to line up, but you can also you can like raise and lower your shields to increase your speed or increase your defense. And there was so much going on with it, but none of it really felt too confusing or overwhelming. I think by our third game, I mean, it was like every mechanic we completely understood. It was just a matter of pulling them off. And
right.
Even the ground combat, like out of your ship, feels pretty good. A few different kinds of guns. Yeah, it's a really great time. I don't know how else to say it, man. Like I was so impressed by this, especially because a lot of times I'm not real into the competitive games, and we just had a blast with this one.
Yeah, this one comes out really soon too. I think it's like 4 or 5 weeks away, and it's gonna be like $30, I think, which as long as they're not, trying to like shove microtransactions down your throat the whole time, I think it feels worth that $30 price point.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like it's a premium experience, right? I'm a little worried that they may not be able to find a foothold at that $30 price point, because like we saw what happened with Concord and how that game launched at a $30 price point and immediately died. Or that one might have been $40, but either way, like it launched as a premium title with the same kind of idea of like, oh, multiplayer exclusive type of game, and then immediately died.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for this one. I'm hopeful for it. We will definitely be picking it up and playing this one, because just all the pieces coming together felt so good. And yeah, I'm excited to play it again, honestly. The beta shut down before we could play another game last night, but I'm excited for more of it.
All of these multiplayer games we were playing during Steam Next Fest, like they were fun, but we'd always reach a point where we were like, all right, like we're going to move on. I don't want to put too much time into it while it's still this demo, yada, yada. With this one, we literally played it up until the server shut down for the beta. I mean, they let us finish our match, and we tried to queue up for another one. And we're like, why isn't it working? Then we realized, oh, the beta's over.
Right. Yeah, that just goes to show how fun it was. Yeah, it just goes to show how much it was like. This one could, make its way onto my top 10 of the year for sure, with just how engaging it immediately was.
So final thoughts here. If you had to pick 3 games that we've talked about for people to keep on their radar, which 3 would you pick?
I think for me, my picks would probably be Wildgate, Ball X Pit, and maybe Mina the Hollower.
Okay.
You could also maybe throw Ninja Gaiden Ragebound in for one of those, but I thought those were the ones that stood out to me the most, for sure.
I'm going to have much the same answer. It's Wildgate, it's Ball X Pit, and then for my third one, I might actually say Jump Ship. I think it was just different enough from something like Wildgate, especially if you're not into the PvP stuff and you're into a little more of the just kind of sci-fi-ness of things, and kind of more of a there's a little more of a world being built in that one, so it's definitely a different experience. But I think both Wildgate and Jump Ship, I just loved the on and off the ship element. Like I just love games that let you do that, and there's not very many. So the fact that there's now there's at least 3 with Void Ship too that I can play that I like this. Very, very excited about that.
Yeah, I loved most of the games I played. Love's maybe a strong word. I liked most of the games I played throughout this Next Fest. I don't know if anything stood out to me as much as some of the things last year, like Tactical Breach Wizards or Aloft.
Yeah.
In last year's Next Fest, but a lot of good games here to keep an eye on. Like I said, I played like 30 of these games, and very few of them didn't impress me in some way. Like a couple that I didn't even mention here that I'll very briefly. Like Dead as Disco is one that you should definitely be keeping an eye on. It's like a Arkham style rhythm game.
Yeah, it's Arkham Asylum and Sci-Fi Rush mixed together. Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. Hi-Fi Rush. Yeah. Which is just cool, right? Like think of that, and that's cool. That was one that really impressed me too. And a game called Morbid Metal that was really neat. So yeah, a lot of cool things here. I'd recommend just kind of going through. I think Steam still has like the top 50 demos played on their website. Who knows if it'll still be up by the time this comes out? But if you could find like some of the bigger demos of Next Fest, there was a lot of cool stuff here that was around.
Well, that about wraps up our discussion on this summer's Steam Next Fest.
You can find this episode, as well as all our other episodes, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting platform. And you can follow us on YouTube and Blue Sky at the Games Gone By podcast.
And don't worry, we have a full-length, regular, full-game episode coming later this month. Signing off for Games Gone By, I'm Adam.
I'm Austin.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.